What do you think of our fair city so far?
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
and I got very lucky with this room. Apparently everyone has stayed here. Every major head of state and lots of famous people. Just reading the guest book.
Yeah.
It's a great view. I get to see the whole city from this room, so even if I don't get to get out, I get a pretty good idea. I can say I saw... the only thing I'm missing, though, is I love the idea of watching everyone skating to work.
Oh, well, you
I
have
think
to come
that
back
happens.
to
It
it.
happens in a month or so, I guess.
Well, if we get ice.
Yes.
If we get colder weather.
Yes.
This is very unusual for us not to have snow at this time of
Global
year.
warming.
I know. Tell me why you've come to Ottawa.
I've come here to talk about adult vaccinations, which is something I knew nothing about until I spoke to my doctor quite recently. And I said, for adults? I said, I thought that was something that was for children, or for flu vaccine, or for when you went to exotic countries. But apparently there are vaccinations that are very important and can really prevent life-threatening disease. And specifically the pneumococcal disease, which develops into pneumonia or meningitis or sepsis, depending on which part of the body it would affect. There are people who are very susceptible to this, people whose immune system is low, people who have liver or kidney issues, or people who've had pneumonia. They really need to address that. And the reason I came is that I had really bad pneumonia a number of years ago. And after that, my doctor said, that I had to be very careful that whenever I get a bacterial infection, and I've seen it happen, it becomes much more serious for me than some other people. So this is something that I can do now to prevent.
Is it mostly for older adults?
Mostly, normally, I think for older adults, absolutely. And I spoke to 3 doctors before I came here in the States. Being a doctor's daughter myself, I wanted to make sure that this was absolutely what they all agreed on, and they said absolutely. And then they also said, while you're at it, you should probably have your shingles vaccine too. So it never occurred to me, and obviously it never occurred to Canadians, as we saw in this survey. Only 18% or 16% of Canadians had even heard of adult vaccination. So I think really the issue that I'm addressing is talk to your doctor if you're at risk or if you're of a certain age, and see if this is something that's appropriate.
You had such a long, illustrious film career. There's 2 films I wanted to focus on for the moment. You were a Bond girl many years ago.
Yes.
And the hilarious scene in Wedding Crashers with Owen Wilson. Can you talk about the Bond girl for a moment, and how that came about, and what memories you have of that being a Bond girl? Because there's not many in that club.
That's true. Well, they were looking for a virgin, because I was playing the virginal solitaire who would lose her psychic powers. And I was about as close as they could find in what would have been the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s. It was, swinging London at that time, right. And I had very protective parents, so I don't know why or how I got the job, but I was definitely very, very innocent, and I played solitaire, and I filmed in Jamaica and in New Orleans. I thought America was New Orleans. I had no idea. That was my first vision of America. And I even got mugged. So that was my first experience of America. And I had a pretty amazing experience, because it was with Roger Moore, and I'd grown up with Roger Moore as the saint. And so it was exciting, and after that I realized I wanted to do other kinds of roles, ones that didn't require running 3 paces behind a man with a gun whilst wearing high heel shoes.
Like Wedding Crashers, that's completely different.
Wedding Crashers was, I thought anyone foolish enough to want me to disrobe and do this kind of comedy. It was a very funny scene, basically.
It was very funny.
I read the script, and my first take on it was I was howling out loud. I just thought this was hysterical. And when I read that scene, I just thought this was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen.
Did you have any reservations?
Absolutely. I turned it down, turn it down. I told myself that I wasn't going to do this about 2 or 3 times, until I read it the 3rd time, and I just went, I have to do this. This is really funny. And I had to screen test for it. It was not offered to me. There were a lot of people trying out for that role. And I tested, and it was really funny, because the people who hired me had never seen my work other than the James Bond films. So rather like the question you just gave me, I only hit your radar twice, James Bond and then Wedding Crashers. So there was sort of a lot of work in between, but these people had no idea. And so what they didn't realize was that as funny as the character was and the sequence was, it was even funnier if you had seen me as Dr. Quinn for 7 years. It made it even
Does it mean that a woman of a certain age can be sexy? Is that what the message from that? little scene?
I don't know. I don't think I was trying to make a message other than to elicit some laughter from some inappropriate behaviour by a woman that was supposed to be very proper.
And just for the record, you weren't nude in that scene.
No, I was not.
Yes, we have to make
No.
that clear.
No, I have to make that clear for especially also for my 15, 16-year-olds who said they've been given some, tough time about that. But no, I never was nude.
Very good.
You can ask Owen if you need to know.
I will. I'll call him. Thank you.
And you could keep rewinding as people do.